Welcome back. So in the previous video we have showed you how to use the use state hook with Boolean values, and we were able to build a very basic kind of a model, okay, using only the use state and also a third-party package which was React model to build these kind of functionalities. It was very simple and very straightforward. And by the way, if you are wondering, we have only showed you the hook based way of doing things, and we didn't touch the class file. Well, you still have access to all the code that is written, and the conversion between them. So you will see the code in the class base, and you will write the code in the hook based way. You just need to go ahead and check the GitHub repository that we have talked about in the beginning or one of the previous videos or something like that. You just need go back to the series and watch it, and you will understand where to find the code. However, it is time for us. Let me show you our file right here. We have understand the string, the number, and the Boolean one. Now it's time for us to talk about object. Now let me show you a real situation where you will use the use state hook with object in a real situation. I'm gonna hover right here on the username right here, and if I click on a preview profile, once you do that, we can see we have the specific user dashboard for this user, and all this information was stored in an object. It's not a collection of users, it's only one user, so we can make use of the use state hook with objects to handle a functionality like that. So let us go ahead and start implementing things like that. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead to my hook state file, which I just cleaned up a little bit. So we have only a function that return an empty div, and we are exporting that function that's called hook state. So what I will do right here, I will here create a user object, okay, and I'm gonna try to fill this information right here. For example, I'm just gonna copy the name, and by the way, I'm just gonna add property right here. It's called name, and the value of it should be like, of course we need to surround it with a quote just to tell it that it's a string. I'm gonna add, for example, an age to be, let's say, whatever number. I'm gonna add the role, it is to be user. What else? We have a photo. So for the photo or for the image, I'm just gonna go to pixels, search for face or faces. You will see a lot of faces over here, and we can just copy and download or whatever, any of these things. For example, let's go ahead and pick this one, which is the same. It is the same. I'm just gonna click on copy image address. I'm gonna go back and paste it here as a string, and that should be it. So of course, this is the user data that we are going to display instead of this thing right here. Make sense? Now that's pretty much it. Now what we can do, now if you are wondering why would you, for example, we can go ahead and display the data right here. For example, I can create a div, and inside that div I'm gonna have an h3. Let's say, for example, an h3 whatever value. For example, I'm just gonna say user dot name, and if you are wondering, we can go ahead and do it like that, okay, and that will go ahead and display the name. Of course, we need to do the same thing for other properties to display the role, the age, the bio, the photo, whatever. But again, we are here using constant, and we are storing the value in a way that it's not flexible. Okay, so in order for me to update, for example, the value, first of all, what you need to understand is that this user object will not be stored like this in a real application. You will get it from an API. Usually what you will do, once the user open this page right here, the profile page, we are gonna make a GET request to an API to get the currently logged in user, and that will go ahead and give us the information that we can display right here. So what you need to be aware of is that initially you don't know the information that you want to display, but in the future, when you will make the request, you will be able to get this information. So you need to store it somewhere. Okay, so this is the first reason that you cannot use it like this. You have to make use of the state. Second of all, when it comes to updating this information, let's say I want to update this information. So if you want to, like for example, you have to create, for example, a function that's called update user, and that update user function will take a parameter and check all this kind of stuff. So this is the second reason why you don't need to do it like this. When it comes also to updating the information, you have to create custom functions for updating each specific property. So that's why this is not a good idea to store information like this using constant and a real object like so. So that's why we are going to use the use state hook. So very simply here, before my return statement, I'm just going to give some space. I'm going to create an of course, we are going to destructure the properties immediately, as we already know. I'm just going to call it user and set user. Okay, and that will just say use state. Okay, and again and again and again. Once you do it like this, initially you will start with an empty object. In a real application, you will start with an empty object because you don't know the information yet. Okay, once this component is loaded, we are going to make an API request to get the information, and then we can use the set user function to update the information right here, and then we can display it. So my point here is that you always will start with an empty object or a null or undefined or whatever. Then once you get the data from an API, you will update it. And by the way, we will show you that in the next few videos. Like, don't rush yourself, just like understand it as it is for the time being. Later on we are going to show you that in a real application. So again, what I can do right here, since I don't have an API request, and I'm not gonna do that because we didn't learn about the use effect right now. So in the next few sections we are gonna learn. So here we can pass the initial value. What I will do, I will pass this user value that we have created like in a second. Again, I am doing this step because I will not make an API request, but you should not do the things like this. Okay, just be aware of that. And again, here we have a naming conflicts. I guess user by user doesn't make sense, so I'm just going to change it to be, for example, this one. I'm just going to call it new. Or let's say change this one. I'm just going to call it old user. Okay, and here I'm just going to pass it as an initial value for our user object. Now the same thing will happen. If we check our React application right here, you can see we are still displaying the name, but now we are displaying it in more flexible way. Okay, we can update it. Very, very simple. We can go ahead. For example, if I go let's say here, I'm just gonna add a button. Okay, what we can do here, I'm just gonna say update user. Okay, and here I'm just gonna give it a function, an on click. I'm just gonna call it update user. Okay, and we have, of course, to create this function because we don't have it yet. So update user, it's equal to a function. What this function will do will go ahead and set the user to be a something else. Okay, so I'm just gonna say the name right here will be different. Okay, that's pretty much it. It's very, very simple. I just want to show you that once we make use of the use state hook, it's going to be more flexible to update the data in our state. And to do that, let's go ahead. Here we are. Initially we will start with this name, but once we click on update user, this function will fire up. That will go ahead and set the user to be a new object with the name set to be Rob. Let's go ahead and test it. Once you can see that is updated. But if we want to go ahead and by the way, I can change as much properties as I want over here. For example, if I say age, and here I say the age to be 10 or whatever number, and going back, we can see now we have this information. Click here, that will update it again. I can make or I can modify the entire object, while with the previous one it was we have to create custom functions to check, to do things like that. Okay, but now it's more flexible. Again, this is the way of storing an object using the use state hook, and why you have to use the use state hook instead of creating variables like this. That's just a basic idea about that. In the next few videos, we are going to build an authentication system, and by the way, we are going to build like almost the same thing that you can see right here, and once we come to that, you will understand how beneficial this is. Again, in a nutshell, this is what we have learned. We have learned how to use the use state hook with object. It was very simple but very straightforward. In the next few videos, we are going to take about use state hook with array and how this is very, very helpful. With that being said, I will see you in another one.